All right, so we're going to talk about building self-esteem, and I first need to always give the Chad disclaimer that Chad believes information about products, services, publications, medications, and treatments should be made available to its members so they can make informed decisions for themselves and their families. As such, Chad does not endorse products, services, publications, medications, or treatments. This talk really doesn't apply to this because I'm not recommending any products per se. Um, Basically, how would your life change if your self-esteem improved? So much of what we do in life breaks down our self-esteem. And when our self-esteem is low, we tend to be less productive. We tend to not perform to the top of our abilities because we just assume we're not going to do well. I based this talk because I kind of got late into the game. Someone else was going to give it, and she had a change in commitment times. Um, so she couldn't do it, but I had already done a series of blogs on the ADHDKCTeen site. So I'm basing this on those blogs. So if you want any more details about what I'm doing or what I'm talking about, you can go to this series, and at the last slide it has all of these listed. But basically, all of the self-confidence boosters are going to be talked about tonight. The first is stopping negative self-talk, and we've all done this. I'm not good enough to do whatever. I'm not strong enough to lift this box. I'm not good at math. We all feel this way sometimes. And we've got to stop telling ourselves that we cannot do whatever, or we're not good enough for whatever. So I want to try this. I have never done this before, but I want to try a poll to kind of give you guys a way to participate without having to, if there was a big group, talk about too much. So can you guys see the poll? I've never done that one before. Ah, yes, people are answering. You can choose more than one if you need to, but all right. So basically, not everyone has voted yet. If somebody else wants to vote, negative thoughts that people are having are they're not smart enough, other people don't like them, or they're lazy. And those are all super, super common things that we think negatively about ourselves. We are our own worst critic. Everybody else could compliment you on something and you think, oh no, not me. I am not pretty. I am not smart. I am not whatever. And so we need to start to turn that thought process around. All right. So one of the ways to do that is this little word called yet. And I made this little word because it really is powerful. If you say, I am not able to do this math, I'm not able to do it yet. I am not able to run a mile. Well, not yet, but if you work out and you practice, you can do a lot of things, or work towards learning how to do it. So it's a big difference if you just change a sentence to say I can't to I can't yet. And that is a huge thing and a very simple thing to try. I'm going to see if I can get this guy to go. Yesterday was May the 4th. It would have been so perfect to have May the 4th be with you. It's not playing. I don't know why it's not playing. All right, cute little video. If you really, really love Yoda, I will have the mindfulness blog at the end written down because I have this embedded in the blog. Basically, Luke is really discouraged because he can't use his he can't use his powers to lift the ship out of the water. And Yoda basically tells him there is no try, there is just do. So it is a way to change your thinking to a very powerful, positive thinking. I do think it's very important, especially in this time of social distancing where we're all supposed to stay home. We need to avoid being alone, and sometimes communicating with something like this, a Zoom with friends and family, is great. Sometimes really being with people in your home can be helpful. I once heard this story. The bottom of the left side has the website that I saw it on, and I really like this. It was about depression, but it's similar to just about anything that we all get to when we are isolated. Depression's like an old creaky house. It'll creak and creak no matter what you do. And you'll notice the noise the more sitting when you're quietly in your room. You'll notice it less if you throw a party. And depression is very similar, or all of these negative self-thoughts. The negative self-talk is very similar. The feelings of sadness, guilt, apathy are the things that you're going to notice when you're alone. You just can't stop hearing it when you're alone. But you'll notice it less if you keep yourself busy. And so if you're sitting alone quietly in your room, makes you feel bad. So getting out of your isolation can be very helpful. And then this old proverb just kind of fits right into instead of complaining that the rose bush is full of thorns, be happy that the thorn bush has roses. And this is true for everything. We always tend to see the negative. Our brains are built that way. I still remember negative things from my childhood that really are insignificant. A girl making fun of my hair one time. I totally remember that. It hurt me. And now it's probably 40 years later. I still remember it. And I don't remember all the good things people have told me over the years. We tend to remember the bad. But we need to start making a conscious effort every day to think about the good, and be happy that even though there are thorns on that bush, there are some really beautiful flowers too. We all make mistakes. And I think those are the things we oftentimes remember too. We remember, oh, I fell when I did this and made a silly mistake, or I made an error on that test that was just not supposed to happen. I knew that answer. My friend asked me a question and I flubbed the answer in front of other people. We all make mistakes and we beat ourselves up over it. But if we turn it around and use it as a learning experience, we see that as a positive instead of a negative. Well, I didn't do that project very well because I stayed up too late, I was ill prepared, whatever the issue was. What can I change about that situation that might turn it around for the next time? Because situations tend to recur. We tend to have the same things happen over and over again. So if we use whatever didn't happen right to think about what we could have changed, it can't be what somebody else changed. We can't put the blame on anybody else. We can't put the ownership on anybody else. But if we think about what we honestly could have done differently, a lot of times that can help. And I love this quote from Albert Einstein. I don't know if you guys have ever heard this before. Basically says, everybody's a genius, but if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it will live its whole life believing that it is stupid. And that is so true. You know, all of the animals pictured here have their own gifts and talents, but a monkey can climb the tree, the seal can't, the fish can't. So if we're judging people with the wrong characteristics, then we're never going to notice their really powerful traits, their beneficial traits. And we do that to ourselves all the time. We tend to want to be best at everything we do. And sometimes it's good to be best at one thing that we're really gifted in, and the other things try really hard, because it's the trying that makes us good. And really try to appreciate what's good in other people too. This is something about mindset. When we think about things that we are unhappy about. Maybe we have a big outdoor party that we're planning on going to, and the weather report is bad, it's going to rain. We can't control the weather, but we can control what we're going to do to prepare for that weather. We can maybe move that big party inside, or we could put a tent out, we could wear rain gear. There are things that we can control, and we need to focus on those things. A lot of us tend to focus on the things that we can't control because they just get us angry and we get fixated on that. We're upset about what somebody else said or what they did. We're upset about the traffic. We're upset about mistakes that we made. We can't control those things, but we can control things around those things that can actually make us feel better, because when we can control something, we feel more positive about it. We can feel empowered by that. So always try to think, if you are really upset about something and you can't control that issue, think outside that box. What can you control to help you be empowered and take ownership of that? All right, this is from one of my favorite cartoonists, ADHD Alien. And if you've never seen this cartoon character, basically it is a woman with ADHD who all her life felt frustrated about things, and her cartoons really delve into various aspects of having ADHD, and this one in particular is about a life cycle of criticism. When people have ADHD, they tend to hear negative comments so many more times than typical children and adults. And sorry, I've got people in the waiting room. All right. So when those kids hear all of these negative results or negative things all the time, it builds this kind of cyclic thing. And there is a non-official term called rejection sensitivity that is more common in people with ADHD. Basically, they get very super sensitive so that little things trigger them a lot. And that's what this cartoon is supposed to be talking about. So I'm going to go through, and I just kind of screenshotted each individual section. So misunderstood ADHD symptoms. If you think about kids that have ADHD, when people especially don't understand that they are not able to control that fidgeting, they're not able to raise their hand, they're not able to do things that other kids their age might be able to do, they tend to have a delay in maturity levels. So people will tell them to try harder, and they can't just try harder because they have a neurobiological thing going on in their head that doesn't allow them to. But they hear the negativity all the time. You didn't do this, you did this wrong, you didn't stay on task, you didn't start your task on time, you forgot things. So that negativity that they hear all the time is there. So then they start to feel that rejection. Kids will make fun of them. They start to dread going to school. They are, sorry, I got another thing maybe with my note. Okay. Anyway, they feel bad because when they're compared to their peers, they don't measure up. They might have things that go unrecognized as being better than their peers. Maybe they are able to hyper-focus on certain areas of things that they enjoy, or they are very artistic or talented in another way. They are very sensitive to other people's feelings, so they can be good listeners, but those things get under-recognized, and all of these things that they do that are not desirable behaviors get recognized a lot, so then they feel rejected. So then they learn bad coping skills because they always hear that negativity. They start to hide their emotions. They start to try to live up to the reputation maybe they're getting. You are always this bad kid. So, okay, well, if you're going to call me a bad kid, I'm going to start acting like a bad kid because I'm not really a bad kid. But if you're going to think I am, then why should I even try to be good? It's too hard to try. It's emotionally draining. So, sometimes we try so hard to do things and we work so hard to do it. We feel like, yes, we got it, we did it, but we use so much energy, it drains us, and then we can't meet that expectation the next time. So short-term successes, This is where you burn yourself out. You did something, but you worked so hard to do it. It just really didn't work well. Um, and then once you meet that expectation, though, you feel like, wow, it's great. I will try this again. So you, again, burn the midnight oil. You try to do things so hard. You use that hyper focus. You get it into overdrive, but then you burn out. So then you have, again, the repeated failures, the criticisms come back. You always feel like you're not living up to your expectations. So this cycle just keeps continuing. And fight or flight is commonly associated with anxiety, and it is very commonly associated with people with ADHD and other issues where they feel like they are not sufficient for what they need. So they get very hypersensitive to criticisms, very hypersensitive to even neutral statements come off as negative to a lot of people who have lived this life cycle of criticisms and failure to meet up to expectations. So all of this combined tends to make people have lower self-esteem because they chronically feel like they're misunderstood and rejected, and they learn bad coping skills to try to overcome things. They work extra hard, but then they burn out. So this whole cycle is super common with people with ADHD. While I was researching this, found this quote. Did not intend for it to be a political thing. I didn't look at the name until the end, but I like it because it says, take criticism seriously, but not personally. If there's truth or merit in the criticism, try to learn from it. Otherwise, let it roll right off. And that is so true, because I think we all take criticism so personally, and then we just get upset by it, but we don't use it to grow. Again, going back to that slide with learning from mistakes, we need to look honestly at what people are saying, and we might not be able to do that right away. It might be that we have to kind of cool off, because when somebody tells us something negative about ourselves, we don't like that. So we get angry. We need to instead take a couple breaths, not really react at that point, go back and look at it later when we have time to reflect, and try to think outside the box. Try to think about what that person is saying, and is there any merit or truth to it? Because if there is, then what can we change in ourselves, in our habits, in our actions, in our words that could make things better? If really it doesn't have any merit, they're blaming us for something we didn't do, or they're saying something that just isn't true, then we just got to forget about it. We cannot keep having those negative self-thoughts. Those are just very detrimental to everything. So we have to just forget about it. All right, emotional roller coasters are huge. And a lot of this has to do with the way we think about things negatively. We tend to just reinforce those negative thoughts. Little things then can tip us off no matter what. It doesn't have to even be that negative. But if we get put in a bad mood, it's very hard to get out of that. And so learning how to tolerate the bad mood initially so that you're not exploding at everything that somebody says, just learn how to just kind of deal with it, bury some of the thoughts and words that just come to your mouth that you want to say, try to hold those back and find ways to help yourself feel better faster. And that brings us right up to the next, how to be positive, because it's hard when you we all tend to be negative thinkers. We all tend to reflect on the negative and persevere on the negative. But how can we learn to be positive? There's a whole way of thinking called growth mindset. And if we have a growth mindset, it means we're not fixated on an outcome. You know, a static thought process would be, I'm smart. Even though that sounds positive, that doesn't necessarily mean I'm going to be a success, because if I feel like I'm smart, but then I'm presented a problem that's hard for me to do, I don't understand it, all of a sudden my smart thought goes down to, now I'm dumb. And we can't let that happen. Having a growth mindset, I don't think that I'm smart or stupid. I feel like I can work hard. I know how to learn. I can use my resources. All of this alphabet here has very positive growth mindset self-talk. So thinking about how you approach things rather than the final outcome, but just thinking about the effort you put into it and building yourself up, that helps us have that positivity that we all need and so much of us lack. Um, so if we lack the positivity and we forget to be positive about ourselves, especially because again, we're our worst critics, post reminders. It sounds really silly, but it works. Put little post-it notes where you will see them and where you need them. You know, if you struggle in a certain class or meeting or something, put the post-it note in your planner next to that section. If you struggle with your looks, put a little post-it note on your mirror in the bathroom. If you struggle with eating healthy, put a little reminder, positive reminder in the kitchen somewhere. I do have some suggested positive reminders that you can print out. There's a PDF link in the on the ADHDKCTeen website. And in your invite to this, there was a link and a password. If anybody has problems getting to that, let me know. But basically, something like this you can print off, cut up, put these little reminders wherever you need them. If these aren't what your reminders need to be, come up with what you need to hear and make your own. If you feel like you have a bad haircut, put something positive about your hair in there. If you feel sad, put the I feel happy or helpful or something that makes you feel good about you. And then those reminders can help. Other positive everyday reminders are to do what you love. I have been telling people this whole COVID time that we're stuck at home. Most of us have extra time because we don't have the activities we normally go to. We're not stuck in traffic. We're not spending time doing whatever we usually do. So we have all this extra time. We do have to get done with whatever we have to do for work or school, but we have this extra time. And if you've always wanted to learn how to play the guitar and you have a guitar available, learn guitar. If you are good at art, you want to get better at art, build that skill. Right now, we have this gift of time that we don't ever get. We all are asking for more time usually. But use this to build what you love. And even in normal times when you can go to dance class or you can play soccer or you can do whatever, do those things because building those skills makes you feel better about yourself. And unfortunately, I do see sometimes parents will take away, oh, you didn't do your homework. Now you can't go to music class or you can't do whatever it is you like to do. They take away those things that actually could build us up. And I do think it's very important that we have those things and we can't do those instead of what we need to do. We need to learn how to manage our time and get our work done first, or figure out how to balance it so that it all gets done. But I do want everyone to do things that they enjoy and they love, to feed their talents and grow their talents, because then we feel better about ourselves because we've mastered something or we're getting towards that mastery stage. And then we can be one of those positive people because we're happy. We have this positive thing going for us. And I do want people to surround themselves with positive people. Nobody wants to be around that negative Nelly, someone that always brings you down. You just don't want to be around that. And the opposite is true. If people are very positive and bright and exciting and full of energy, we want to be around that because we tend to absorb some of that. So try to find positive people. And then don't be the downer near them because they won't want to be around you either. You have to remember to be positive. And then being grateful. These next two tips on here, being grateful has actually been proven to help raise your mood, take you out of sadness feelings, and raise your self-esteem. So if every day, at the end of the day, you can take a little bit of time to reflect on what you're really happy for. And it cannot be the generic, I'm happy for the food and the shelter and all of that stuff. Maybe you really are. Maybe it's been a bad time and you've been living in the car and now you're happy to have a roof over your head again. Then yes, that's a positive thing. But be realistic and really try to be unique each day. What really happened that you're thankful for? And write it down. Have the gratitude journal, because if you write it down, then it reinforces what you've just thought about, but it also is something you can bring out when you are feeling really down and bad. Nothing good ever happens to me. Nothing ever goes my way. Nobody likes me. Go through this gratitude journal and look at the things that you wrote down. You know, positive Patty smiled at me and gave me a compliment. If that's in there, then you can remember that, because we tend to forget those things. We remember the negative things. Those are what's burned into our brains. So have that positive time with yourself every day. Think about the things and write it down. And then mindfulness. I don't know if you guys have ever done mindfulness. It's hard. I've tried it many times, and it does get easier the more I do it, as long as I do it on a regular basis. But basically, you're trying to control, or not control your brain, but focus your brain on what's around you. So you're very aware, but you're not judging anything, and you're not thinking those negative things. And those always tend to come in. Like whenever I do it, I tend to start thinking about my list of things I need to do or whatever. And you have to kind of push those away and get back to whatever your mindfulness exercise is. There's a lot of great apps on there. So I encourage people to look at those. And this again is just reminding us to focus on what we're thankful for. Gratitude builds happiness better than any happiness you can buy. Feeling accomplished can definitely help. If you are able to stay focused on getting stuff done, one way to do that, because people with ADHD can't stay focused. If they don't like it, it's out of their brain. If they like it, they hyper focus on it, and they can really stick with it for hours and hours without any interruptions. So we have to sometimes find a way to make it fun. And maybe we really don't like whatever it is we have to do. Nobody loves cleaning the toilets, but maybe when I'm done cleaning the toilets, I get to celebrate and do something I enjoy. Maybe I am just excited about finishing the task and how good I'm going to feel looking at the clean bathroom. Think about the things you have to do and find that positive flip to it, and focus on that when you're getting it done. It is really important for all of us to do the big three: the eating right, exercise, and sleeping, because if we're not doing those things, then we're not going to be as healthy as we need to be. And we can't focus as well as we need to be. We won't be as effective or efficient as we need to be. And then turning off electronics as much as possible. I know in today's world, everybody's on electronics to do their meetings, to do their homework, to do whatever. But you can at least turn off the notifications so you're not interrupted by something popping up when you need to be focusing on something. And then using some sort of an organizational system, whether it's a planner, which most school kids end up doing. I know a lot of adults do that. Some of them use electronic planners with their phone. Sometimes they use a whiteboard, which I think I have on this next one. This is actually a picture of my daughter's whiteboard one summer. She would color code it. She would update it regularly during the school year. She would put her assignments on there. So like the big things that she had to plan. And so she could kind of keep track of things on a bigger scale than the day-to-day planner that she had. And then I already talked about removing distractions, because that's huge. If you are trying to work on something and your phone is there and it keeps buzzing because people are trying to text you or get in contact with you, you're not going to finish anything. But it is not healthy to try to sit and do an 8-hour project all at 8 hours. You need to do a little bit, then take a break, do a little bit, take a break. And that really varies depending on what you're doing, how much brain power you need, and how much you're able to provide. For younger kids, especially, they can only focus for maybe 15, 20 minutes, and then they need to take a 10-minute break and run around, do some jumping jacks, dance, play outside, eat a healthy snack, something, and then they can get back in the zone. The older we are, the longer we can legitimately sit there. But if we try to sit and power out something really hard, mentally taxing for a couple hours, we're not going to do our best. We're going to fade in and out. And it is more productive to spend the time taking little breaks that are healthy. And maybe even set a timer. If you're the kind of person that you get up from whatever you're doing and you don't ever come back, that's not good either. So set a timer for a realistic amount of time that you need that brain break, and then come back. And I think, if you use accommodations at school with a seat that moves or a fidget item or anything else, use things like that now. because that can help. If you usually sit on a seat that wiggles, maybe at home you don't have that, but maybe you have a pillow you can put on top of your chair or something like that. And then buddying up. I'm hearing a lot of kids right now are struggling, or parents even struggling, because they're supposed to be working, but there's no one watching them. So they're left alone and then their mind wanders. If you are sitting at the big dining room table with a couple different people working on different things, don't distract each other, but just be there for each other. And that accountability helps. I know when I was in school, I used to go to the library a lot to study, because if I studied in my own apartment, I would just get distracted and I would start doing anything but what I needed to do. But if I was in the library, that would help. And if background noise bugs you, you can wear headphones or have some noise canceling things. But finishing tasks, that accomplishment feels great. And that is a great way to build your self-esteem, is to get stuff done. And then again, the big three, because they are so important. Um, Eating a nutritionally balanced diet. And I tell people all the time, eat a plant and a protein. Plants would be some kind of fruit or vegetable, and then a protein is some sort of meat, nut, egg, dairy product. Um, if you eat those for breakfast, lunch, dinner, and snacks, you'll hit your 5 a day, because most people eat at least 5 times a day, and we're supposed to eat 5 or more servings of fruits and vegetables. Unfortunately, a lot of people, when they're bored, go and grab a bag of chips or crackers or something that's not healthy. Those don't feed our brain the same way. They don't feed our body in a good way. So make healthy choices with eating. Get exercise. I mean, I've seen more people walking these days than ever before in my 20 years living in this town. But it doesn't have to be walking. It can be riding bikes. It can be shooting hoops. It can be dancing, yoga. There's a really fun, for the little kids, Cosmic Kids Yoga, and not even little kids. I think older kids enjoy it too. But she tells stories, so she keeps it entertaining, because yoga might get boring for some people. So again, trying to find things that you can do that make it entertaining for you. Um, if you can get on an elliptical machine or running something, and it's boring because you're not outdoors, you're just staring at a wall, maybe listen to some good powerful music, or watch a show, or do something to keep you motivated to do it, because exercise really should be fun. And then of course sleep is huge, and so many people get off their normal sleep cycles, or their sleep cycles are off compared to what society demands. Right now it's actually kind of cool, because a lot of people can sleep more on their normal schedule, because they don't have to get up early, go through traffic, get on the bus, do whatever to get to anywhere right on time. So trying to still get up about the same time every day and eat breakfast at about the same time every day, have a routine, definitely can help. But be careful with things like lights, which include the things on your computer or your phone. This website, Flux, F.lux, is amazing, because it changes the light waves on your computer or phone. It's free, and you can set it for certain times. So whenever your bedtime is, it will start to change the lighting and the colors in your screen before you go to bed. So that helps the melatonin levels raise, which helps you then fall asleep on time. And then of course, setting the stage is important in your room. Make your room good for sleeping. You shouldn't watch TV in bed. You shouldn't do lots of other stuff right before bed that gets you all excited, like tickle fights, or even exercise, which unfortunately a lot of sports teams practice late at night. That gets you all pumped up, the adrenaline's going. It's hard to relax and go to sleep then, but super, super important. And then a schedule helps, because our brains kind of regulate to a schedule. And if we sometimes go to bed here, sometimes go to bed there, it can be a really hard thing. All right, and then one of my favorite things to help us feel better about ourselves is helping someone else. Um, and again, just like gratitude, it has been shown that if we help other people, we feel better about ourselves. So when people volunteer, when they make things for other people, or clean things for other people, or do whatever for other people, they actually feel better about themselves. So you're not just helping people in general, you're helping yourself when you are volunteering and helping. And again, I love this, because if you are who you are created to be, you can set the world on fire. So that kind of goes back through a lot of this. If you feel good about yourself, you will perform better. Don't set your expectations for what you need to be able to do based on what other people think you should do. Albert Einstein had it right. We can't judge a fish in his ability to climb a tree. Fish might be a great swimmer, but a horrible tree climber. So we have to look at our own gifts and talents, try to build upon the things that we're not gifted in, but definitely try to be the best at what we can be. All right. We're finishing a little bit earlier than I thought we would, which is great. If you guys have questions, you can unmute and ask